Spicy's the way to go, isn't it?
It's totally the way to go. So, okay, so your margarita's done? Okay. Cheers.
Salud.
Cheers, queers.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, so okay, so let's chat. Tell me a little bit about who you are. Your name is. This is for everybody that doesn't know. This is Raul Dominguez, and Raul and I have never met before. So you're all in for a treat of this is my first guest that I've never met before.
First time for everything.
I was introduced to Raul through this summer quarantines. Is that what they're calling it?
I think so. Play on the words, you know.
Yeah, sure. When Raul was telling me about what he was working on, I was like, you should come on the show. And then Raul, when he said what he wanted to cook, was, what are we cooking today?
Fajitas, y'all.
When he said he wanted to make fajitas, I'm like, that's literally probably the thing that I cook more than anything ever, because I'm from the Southwest, and I basically always have peppers and onions in my arsenal of ingredients on hand so that I can make fajita vegetables, even if I'm not making fajitas.
Staples to have.
Yeah, they're just it's just such an important part of my own identity as a as a cook and as someone who likes food, and so I said yes, but when we shared recipes with one another, I realized that we cook them quite differently from one another. And it wasn't the type of thing where I was like, well, I think I'm better than you or anything like that. I was like, hey, for the first time of all the people on my show, this is the first dish where I feel very culturally connected to, because this, while I did a little research, fajitas do come from Texas.
They do.
They do come from Texas. They're the types of things that you can get in plenty of places in Arizona, and it's something that I grew up with. And because the food is it's such a easy thing to make, in both of our situations, it's easy to make. I also found it as a good opportunity to have a little short discussion on just the differences of in Mexican cuisine or Mexican inspired cuisine in various different places across the Southwest, because quite frankly, Tex-Mex, Mexican food in Texas are two different things.
100%.
There's California-style Mexican food, and then once within California, there's multiple styles of Mexican food within California. In New Mexico, I think most people just think of the green chilies. In Arizona, we've got Sonoran-style food, and I've always said that Sonoran-style food, very home style, very you see these just big dishes. In Arizona is where chimichangas are come from, and so it's and then one of my favorite things that I had growing up that nobody outside of Arizona has ever heard of are cheese crisps.
Yeah, I've never heard of them.
You've never heard of it?
No.
Yeah. Well, guess what you think a cheese crisp is?
Fried cheese.
Nope. It's so a cheese crisp is kind of like an open-faced quesadilla. So think of it like a pizza without the sauce. So just a tortilla with almost always cheddar cheese, but a tortilla with cheddar cheese, and then you can put toppings. In Arizona, oftentimes it's olives, like black olives. I'm not a big fan of olives myself, but
I was just gonna say the same thing.
But that's definitely something that they on enchiladas in Arizona. You'll see black olives. And that's just something that I grew up with, and it's something that I'm very fond of, but you can't get anywhere outside of Arizona. And I'm being honest, I've never actually made it myself, even though you would think I would, but I just never got around to it. But anyways, so that's why we are doing 2 different types of fajitas. Raul is creating shrimp fajitas, which I think makes a lot of sense when you think about him being from Houston.
Yes.
And when I think of Houston, I definitely think more shrimp than I do, other proteins. But when I think of Arizona, I do not think of shrimp. We do not have, you can't get shrimp really in Arizona. I mean, sure, but it's not something that I grew up with. I've chosen to do it my own way, which is the way that I grew up with. Anyways, that's why we're doing 2 different kinds. And I'll also say, in future videos, there's going to be a couple of episodes like this, where I have a recipe and they have a recipe, and we share our recipes with each other. And it's a way of kind of connecting over food and learning from one another. I never even thought to make fajitas the way that he's going to be making them before. So I'm really excited. So we've just been prepping our vegetables, making margarita.
Cheers to that.
Cheers.
To that,
and anyways, so okay, so you're from Houston.
Yep.
And you went to school in Houston as well?
Yeah, specifically, I'm from the suburb of Houston called Spring.
Okay.
And went to high school in the area. And then I graduated from high school in 2008, moved to Oklahoma City and lived there for 5 years. And I got my undergraduate degrees in vocal performance and music education. After I graduated in the fall of 12, I was with, I think for like 3 months, a group called Oklahoma Youth Orchestra, was just their interim executive director for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And then once they hired a full-time exec, I moved to a company or a nonprofit called Creative Oklahoma, and was with them for another 3 months until I found my teaching job, my first teaching job in Houston back home at Clear Lake High School in the Clear Lake area, which is right over by, if you've ever been to Houston, you might know it as the NASA area, you might know it as Kemah area, that kind of area of Houston. And I was there for 4 years, and that's where I met my husband. I met him at the end of my first year of teaching, and we were married in 2016. We were there.
Wow. So you met your husband in Houston.
Uh-huh.
Well, that's fun. I met not my husband, but my long-term partner of 10 years in my hometown as well. So it was,
Nice.
yeah. So it's kind of nice because, for all of us musicians that move all over the country and stuff, we might meet people from different places, and then you have families spread out all over the place. And it's kind of nice that at least, although his family doesn't even live in Arizona anymore, but they did for a long time. So it was nice to be able to kind of go home and see my family and his family.
After my 4 years in Texas, I moved to, my husband Kevin and I, we moved to New York, and I did my master's at Ithaca College.
Oh yes, I remember that now, yeah, okay.
There for 2 years, and then after graduating, that's when we moved to Colorado. And I live here in Broomfield, which is about halfway between Denver and Boulder. You
can't have salsa without cilantro.
Oh my gosh, I love my husband, I really do, but one of his flaws is that he doesn't like cilantro.
I did use fresh lime in the marinade, although these limes are definitely giving me some trouble. So, okay, so you're at Boulder, you are the director of the Denver Gay Man's Chorus?
Associate director.
Associate director, okay. You're the associate director of the Denver Gay Man's Chorus, and you are doing a doctorate. You just finished your first year at Boulder in choral conducting.
That's right, yes.
Okay, so And how's that going? How's the doctorate going for you?
I love the program. I'm having a great time. Feel challenged. I feel like my ideas and my projects that I want to pursue are supported, and they move forward. I've grown. I'm enjoying our DCA, Dr. Gregory Gentry, and the Associate Choir Director, Elizabeth Swanson. So much. And what's nice about the Boulder program is there's a large cohort of conductors. I've always been, in very small programs at OCU. Whenever I was doing music ed, there was only like a couple of us in the program, and then at Ithaca they only have one conductor per year, and so I've always been just all by myself in a way. And now to have multiple conductors in one cohort, it's something that's really special and I've really enjoyed.
So what are you doing right now?
So I'm making, these are 1 pan fajitas. So in here I've got chopped onions, 2 bell peppers, and then I've taken the tails off of the shrimp, and I'm just gonna mix in some seasoning. I've got some olive oil going. I've got a thing of 6 wrapped tortillas to go right there, and I'm just gonna get them all coated in.
Yeah, for sure. How long does it bake in the oven for?
About 10 minutes.
Oh well, so that's really quick. You're gonna beat me because mine definitely takes longer. That's okay. That is okay.
Happy Pride, Spencer.
Happy Pride. I'm super happy that you're here.
I was very excited to spend Pride with a gay men's chorus. I've never been in a gay men's chorus. I've never conducted or directed a gay men's chorus until this past year. And when I got the job about a year ago, it was one of the things I looked forward to the most, is all the Pride events that we were involved in and singing around the town, and our big Pride concert. We always, we have commissioned pieces usually during the Pride season. So I'm very sad that COVID took over, and here we are, Zooming in all of our Zoomness.
So one of the reasons why I invited Raul on, other than just to talk to him and get to know him, was that he has started a really interesting choral conducting colloquium. Do you want to tell us about that?
Sure. So it's called the Choral Conductors Colloquium, and we've partnered with 5 prominent conductors in the U.S. in an attempt to compensate for lost, canceled, postponed summer professional development opportunities for choral musicians. The summer is a time for all of us to apply for workshops, fellowships, attend professional development, go to conferences. And with the current state of affairs of COVID, that's not possible. So I had the idea of applying for grant funds to create this free webinar session, and then through connections, I've been able to collaborate, potentially collaborate with all these conductors over the summer. But on June 10th, we've got our first conductor at 2 p.m. Mountain Time from St. Olaf College, the Tosdahl Professor of Music, Dr. Anton Armstrong. So
yeah, for sure. And all of this will be available they'll be recorded, right? And people will be able to engage with them. Yes.
Yes.
And for how long throughout the summer will it last?
So starting June 10th, we're going on a webinar every 2 weeks. So every second Wednesday, 2 p.m. Mountain Time, we'll have another webinar on. And so registration can be found for these on our Facebook page or at Instagram page. All of those are at Choral Conductors Colloquium. And we've got 500 spots per webinar right now. So
yeah, I'm really excited about it. I'm really happy that you're doing that. I think that it's important to have those professional development projects. I want to hear more about it though. So what kind of topics are you going to be talking about on this colloquium?
Sure. So the idea was to create instead of one cohesive theme throughout, a variety of topics to reach a variety of people. That way, we have accessible learning opportunities going on everywhere. Number one, these are all free. There's no fee or registration fee to sign up. This is all free to the listeners, which is great. The first topic, Dr. Armstrong's talking about rehearsal framework and priorities, strategies, goals, mission statements, etc. And then the second webinar we have from Ithaca College, Dr. Janet Galván, and she is covering a rehearsal technique on using movement in the choir rehearsal to enhance sound, internalization of music, and to bring out musicality. And then the third conductor, we've got Dr. Richard Sparks from the University of North Texas, and he's doing an introduction into phrasing in the Baroque. And followed after him, we have Maestra Dewala Simmons Burke from Winston-Salem State University. She's doing a topic on social justice, music to power, and seeking truth and justice through music, which I can imagine being so totally relevant right now.
Absolutely, yeah.
With what's going on in the world. And then we close on August with Elena Sharkova, who is covering Russian choral literature. That basically there's more than the Russian staples that everyone does, Salvation's Created and whatnot. And she's gonna be delivering some great Russian rep to our listeners in August.
There we go. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm really happy that you're doing it. It's I think, as we said, it's important to have those types of summer professional development resources, but I also think for like young music educators, just having those options, like having all these people come together, it is also a really nice way to like introduce them to people in the field at the collegiate level, beyond just like their school, right? Because unless they go to the conferences and whatnot,
Right.
They don't meet these people. And even at the conferences, there's some, like, I don't know about choral, but in the band conferences, they're so overwhelming.
Oh, for sure.
40,000 people attend the Midwest Clinic, right? And then like 50 or 60,000 people, it might be more than that, go to TMEA.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so, which is Texas Music Educators Association.
Oh, believe me, I know TMEA very well. Oh, yeah, choir is a huge part of TMEA.
You're doing this colloquium, and what has been like a challenge setting this all up?
Probably, first of all, the marketing. Being a team of one, as I'm sure you know, it's rough, and you set up everything. You are your own hustle, and you are responsible for generating every piece of content that goes out. You're responsible for generating every single piece of the webinar series, contacting, seeking out the grant funds and whatnot. Versus another web series that goes live today with Denver Gay Men's Chorus called The Show Must Go On that I'm starting. That one is lovely because there's the Denver Gay Men's Chorus admin team. Someone's helping me with marketing. I'm not the only one on this. People are blasting it on social media and putting it in certain places where all I have to do is just create the content. So I'm really lucky in that aspect on that side. So I think being the team of one is probably the biggest challenge with the Choral Conductors Colloquium. If I don't produce, then it doesn't get out. If I don't reach out or make the connections or try asking somebody, nothing happens, of course. So.
Right. Yeah. No. Absolutely. It's these types of projects, and that's actually the other reason why I wanted Raul on the show. Because I feel like these types of projects happen, and it's really easy to feel like you're in it alone because you kind of are, right? And I'm basically doing the show alone. I have 18 episodes planned for this show. But I am managing 18 different episodes with 18 different heroes, and because I call my guests heroes, which I totally stole from Queer Eye, by the way. hearing those types of things are helpful for students to know. So I'm curious, what's been your favorite part about setting everything up?
My favorite part is bringing together the conductors that I have admired so much over the years. These are people, I mean, I can remember, I first saw Anton Armstrong conduct my sophomore year of high school when St. Olaf came through Houston on their tour. And I just thought, oh my God, this is incredible. And it was the next year that I saw Janet Galván conduct the Texas All-State Women's Choir. And at that point in my life, I had never seen such a strong female conductor in front of a choir and orchestra and creating such epic music. I just thought, oh my God, I was on the side of the stage waiting to go on in the next All-State Choir. She was doing the women's choir and I was doing in the men's choir. And I just thought, this is incredible. So, and then fast forward several years later, and Janet Galván is the one I studied with for my master's. And so bringing all these people again whom I've admired over the years, I could tell you so many stories about them, is probably the most special thing and exciting part about this for me personally. Of course, there's always the curricular goals. You want to create learning opportunities, accessible opportunities for anyone and everyone, wherever they are.
So you have a pretty diverse group of topics that are going to get covered. Is there one that you're like particularly most excited about?
I think right now, because of what's going on in the world, Maestra Burke's topic, social justice in music, speaking power to truth and seeking justice, is what I look forward to the most right now. It's a topic that, social justice and music they've always gone hand in hand in many, many ways. She had a social justice choir years ago before it became, before the re-rise or the resurgence of them happened I think 1 or 2 years back. The singing rams have always been just a staple in that community in Winston-Salem. And so I'm excited to hear from her perspective and learn from her expertise on a topic right now that's, that pervades so much of our lives.
Yeah, absolutely.
Saturated with it. So personally, my husband and I have been present on social media, promoting what we can with the best of our abilities, trying to read what we can to make sure everything that we promote and our choices that we make are always sound and forward, keep moving the message forward. We've donated to causes as well monetarily with what we have, which, we're students. I'm a student, so it is what it is. And then checking in on our friends, our course members, whose lives, are, directly impacted by this. Are we protesting and going out into the streets? No, we are. My husband works full time every day, and I'm at home, and the pandemic right now also has me very spooked. And then you add this on top of that, and then we just create all sorts of feelings. But we are promoting however we can that way, and also with the webinar I mentioned earlier through DGMC that launches today, that will also have some a social justice message in that as well, is reflected in our musical offering at the end of that episode. Self-evaluation is so important these days. It's always important to reflect, evaluate, and how can you better yourself to promote a future, to promote a society that encourages tolerance, that encourages acceptance, love over hate in all aspects. And that self-evaluation is just as critical as as protesters protesting in the streets. It's just as critical as a donation. Every little bit our lives are just pervaded with this sense of intolerance. It's in so many of our systems, and anything that we can do to shred that from our lives, you know, we're all the better for it.
Absolutely. Can you talk a little bit as a as a not white gay man? Can you talk a little bit about how that has affected, being a choir, in the choir world, and also like being an arts leader and being, but also like being in academia and being at Boulder, which I actually have to say, I like I mentioned, I know a lot of people at Boulder. I've seen them really struggle there, right? Yeah, they've had a really hard time in those locations. And I mean, I know I could just ask them on the show, but I'm just curious how you're doing, in a mostly white environment.
Sure. You are absolutely correct that UC Boulder there's not a lot of color in the music school. And I don't say that to a school that I love so much in a degrading way. I merely state that as fact, because don't get me wrong, CU Boulder's been great so far. However, there's always opportunity for diversity. So right before I did my master's, my father passed away very suddenly. And I had never found he was very much connected to our heritage, our family line. He did his research, he interviewed elderly family members, etc. And I always just thought, this is great, Dad, but I'm just not into it. And after he passed, suddenly I felt this need, I don't know, to be more connected to my past and my heritage and where I come from, not only as a person, but also musically. And so looking around, I didn't see a lot of specifically choral conductors who looked like me. There are many, many, many conductors, Latin American conductors, South American conductors, here in the US, in other places as well, doing great, great work. So don't get me wrong there. In the choral community, though, I can name a handful off the top of my head, but that was a moment for me. And whether I needed to feel more connected because I lost my father, or whether I needed to feel connected because that's where my mind was leading me. Either way, that set me on a journey to start this annotated bibliography on Mexican choral music, learning about it, and I've collected over 100 works from several sources across the country, just in an effort to promote, Mexican choral music that way. There's not a lot out there, other than maybe some things by Padilla that some people may know, or villancicos, aside from Rio Rio Chio, but that's also a Spanish villancico. There's so much more out there. The music is beautiful. It's reserved. It's sometimes a little simplistic, but there's always beauty in simplicity as well. As for being a musician of color in a predominantly white community, I find that you just got to do what you got to do your thing, and people will either love it or hate it. And you keep going no matter what, just like everybody else. I know that I don't want to be treated differently or because of the color of my skin, but I also recognize that it's a factor, and you just do your best at the end of the day. That's all you can ask for.
Probably the difference between my house and a lot of households, although we talked about this a little bit, about like, I don't speak Spanish, but you don't speak Spanish either. Not really, right? Like you probably know words, you probably know pronunciation.
We can try if we absolutely needed to, but
right. But that's not your culture. And in the sense of the word, like you didn't grow up learning Spanish. That just wasn't part of your experience.
Right.
And
Mom, that's not your fault. I promise. I swear that's not what I'm saying here, Mom.
man, these look really good.
Likewise, mine are almost done. Woohoo! So I know that I don't know about you. Did you come from a musical family?
I did actually.
Ah, tell me about this.
Yeah. So my last name is Arias, right? Yeah, like an opera aria with an S at the end is how I tell people how you pronounce it. But aria, and then with at the end. That's how I tell people to respond how to pronounce it. Now, I also obviously anglicize it like 90% of the time because I'm that basic. But I also, it's exhausting to explain people how to pronounce your name. But I also, every single guest I've asked, how do you pronounce your name? Because I'm probably going to have to say it. Even if it's a name that I know that I'm going to pronounce correctly. Right?
Yeah, 100%. When I did this for the colloquium, I sent like each conductor, like, here's how I'm going to say your name and your title and whatnot. Let me know if you need it said correct or another way. So I get that.
But yeah, so growing up in a musical family, yeah, it was, thank you for asking. Yeah, it was good. It was, you know, I never thought I would go professionally into music, if I'm being honest with you. Because no one in my family is a professional musician other than my aunt. But my aunt, Nora, who passed away about a year ago, yeah, this is totally done. My aunt, Nora, who was from Chile, was passed away at 100. Are your fajitas done?
Yes. So everyone, here's one Pan Fajitas. Woohoo!
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm putting my tortillas in the microwave real quick because I'm a microwave tortilla person.
Why not?
Yeah, but no, yeah. So, but you know, my aunt taught piano lessons for years, right? But I learned at her funeral that apparently she taught piano lessons to members of her community for free when she retired.
Whoa.
Well, like when her, it really wasn't when she retired, when her husband, who died in like 1997, and he lived till 2019, if that says anything. Right, yeah. So when her husband passed away, she decided to basically she went back to teaching piano, which she kind of had always done, but she really got into it. She just decided that anybody who wanted to take piano lessons could take piano lessons with her, and she thought as a way to connect with kids, connect kids to music, and most of the kids were like lower income, because she lived, and my grandparents lived there too, on this like one street town in Mare, Arizona, which is a really small town, definitely low income. Nobody's taking piano lessons there except for those who got to study with her. And it was never about like, oh, only the best kids get to play with, like study. Like she loved working with beginners. Like she loved, like I remember she was my first piano teacher. I remember very clearly the first piano lesson that I ever got. And she teaches rhythm on the first day.
Good for her. Good for her.
Which is saying something because she was also like, you know, she has her own fair share of things that like I don't agree with pedagogically. Particularly like she doesn't like music written after 1900.
Okay.
Yeah.
So.
Other than like she was very big into the Suzuki method.
Okay, sure.
But she teaches rhythm on the first day, and she teaches it through. She has you play one note on the piano in a rhythm, and she says peanut butter sandwich. And it was, and like I have heard her say, like it's like probably the thing I remember the most about her is anytime there was a little kid in the room and there was a piano in the room, she would teach them peanut butter sandwich on the piano.
Adorable. I love that.
And so that, you know, my mom and dad both play, but like I wouldn't say they play like they're not playing professionally. Although my mom, when her parents both passed away, she joined a community band.
Cool.
And she started taking flute lessons with Janet Galván, if Jenna's watching, who I set her up with because Jenna did her DMA and flute performance at ASU when I was a grad there. So shout out to Janet Galván. But you know, she started taking flute lessons. She started doing this, and my dad actually is a like really good songwriter. He would never admit it, but like I remember him getting like music. You know, he was really for a brief moment, like when the technology wasn't there yet, really into like music notation software. But this is like in the 90s. And he wanted, like, he doesn't really read music, right? Yeah. He wanted to play the piano and then it notated it for him, which that technology exists today. It didn't exist really when he was doing it, right? So he was way ahead of the curve.
What forward thinking. Wow.
But but anyways, my fajitas are done.
I'm about to plate mine.
I'm going to do that too.
So for my salsa, y'all, I'm just using Pace. Great brand, San Antonio based. Love it. Shout outs to Pace.
Okay, so as you know, I made my own salsa. But when I think of fajitas, like, let me ask you this. Like, when you think of plating a fajita, like, I think of it like this, like, tableside build your own type of thing, right? Where you don't, like, when I plate it, I'm not going to plate the whole thing. I'm going to take my tortilla, and I'm going to do one at a time and eat one at a time, right?
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. Like, that's the only way that you eat it. How else would you eat a fajita?
Combine the tortillas, sew them together. I don't know.
Yeah, so I'm just going to put like 1 or 2 pieces of chicken, these are kind of big for the tortilla size that I have, but yeah. You know what? We only live once.
You only live once. That's so true.
You really can't complain about what I'm about to eat, which is so delicious. And you put a little peppers and onions. You can't not have cheese.
Yeah. Sure.
Although it's Monterey Jack.
There you go.
It's better than cheddar, right?
I actually don't use a lot of cheese because I don't know, maybe I messed up in the head somewhere.
Well, like I said, like in Arizona, like you can't not, like, cheese is on everything.
Oh yeah. Same in Texas and everything. And don't get me wrong, I love me some queso, but I don't know. I just don't prep.
You do you, boo.
Right.
And then I put a little salsa on, and I'm really not trying to make it look pretty here.
A taco's or fajita's a fajita. You know?
Yeah, like it doesn't have to be pretty. It's just what it is, right?
After you bite into it, it becomes what it is, you know?
Right. I'm going to take a picture of it. You should take a picture of yours. Ooh, that looks, look at that. That looks, like, look at that. You can't see it. It looks great. Here's mine.
Ooh, yes, look at you.
So where can people find out more information about your different projects that you're working on right now?
For more information on the Choral Conductors Colloquium, you can visit us at our social media pages on Facebook or Instagram. Both of them are at Choral Conductors Colloquium. Other projects I'm involved in, if you want to view the latest episode, The Show Must Go On through the Denver Gay Men's Chorus, you can visit the Denver Gay Men's Chorus at their Facebook page. It's called Denver Gay Men's Chorus on Facebook. If you're interested in virtual voice lessons, I offer virtual voice lessons weekly and as needed between increments of 30 minutes, 45 minutes, and 60 minutes over Zoom. Happy to teach anyone and everyone either vocal music, music theory, ear training, music literacy, etc.
You should get a website. No, yeah, and there will be links in the description below with the schedule for the colloquium. There'll also be links for all these different things that he's talking about. Please don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Like the video, make comments, make fajitas, show us pictures. We'll judge you. Make your margaritas, make your sangria. All the recipes will be below. And thank you for watching.